The hardest moment isn't when she leaves. It's when she knocks again and your heart forgets why you healed. You'll feel it instantly. That old pull, that familiar warmth, that voice inside saying maybe this time it's different. But pause. Not everything that returns is meant to stay. Man sitting alone at night. Most men don't fall twice because they're weak. They fall because memory is louder than reality. You remember the laughter, not the sleepless nights. The chemistry, not the confusion. Ask yourself, are you missing her or missing how you felt back then? When someone walks away, it wasn't an accident, it was a decision. They believed something else would give them more excitement, more validation, more attention. And when that illusion fades, they don't come back for love. They come back for stability. That's the difference most men never see. You weren't just a partner. You were calm in her chaos, certainty in her doubt, silence in her storms. And peace is addictive to people who don't know how to create it alone. Soft heartbeat, so when she reappears, softer voice, nostalgic tone, carefully chosen memories, it feels sincere. But nostalgia isn't growth. It's comfort wearing a new outfit. You'll notice how she tests the door first. A message that seems harmless, a reaction to your story, a just checking in. That isn't conversation, it's calibration. She's measuring whether she still affects you. And here's where your evolution is proven. Not by what you say, but by what you don't, because attention is currency. Every reply is a deposit into a dynamic you already escaped. Silence is self-respect speaking. Do you respond because you've healed or because you're lonely? Most men confuse regret with transformation. Pain doesn't automatically change someone. Awareness does. And awareness sounds like accountability, not nostalgia. I miss you is emotion. I hurt you and I understand how is responsibility. Anything less is just an echo of the past. When she left, she believed options were endless. Now she returns not because you're her choice, but because you're her contrast. You represent the peace she couldn't replace. But peace you fought to build isn't something you hand out freely anymore. If you let her back without clarity, you don't forgive. You rewind. You reopen the same chapter, hoping for a new ending with the same script. And history repeats when boundaries don't exist. You'll hear words designed to provoke emotion. You've changed. Yes, that's the point. Growth always looks cold to people who benefited from your confusion. You're not distant. You're centered. There's power in being calm when someone expects reaction. It removes the control they once had. When you stop chasing, the entire dynamic collapses. Man walking away in slow motion. Her real fear isn't losing you. It's losing access. Access was her safety net. Knowing you'd answer, knowing you'd care, knowing she could return anytime. And when that access disappears quietly, without anger, without drama, that's when the realization hits. Not loudly, silently. You don't need revenge. Indifference is closure. Peace is louder than any apology. Think about it. If she truly changed, would she come back needing validation? Or would she come back offering accountability? Real growth brings responsibility, not nostalgia. Watch patterns, not promises. Words are easy when someone feels alone. Consistency is hard when it requires sacrifice. This isn't about rejecting someone. It's about choosing yourself. The lesson wasn't her leaving. The lesson was who you became after. Discipline, focus, emotional control. That version of you didn't exist before the pain. So when she returns, it's not a love story. It's a test of whether you remember the cost of your peace. Will you trade clarity for comfort, growth for familiarity, freedom for nostalgia? Most men fail here, not because they don't know better, but because old feelings feel like destiny. But destiny doesn't disturb your peace. You'll notice something different this time. You don't feel urgency. You don't feel the need to explain. You don't feel the need to prove anything. That's healing. When you were emotional, she was comfortable. When you became stable, she became uncertain. Because stability can't be manipulated. You're no longer reacting. You're observing. And observation breaks cycles. She may bring up memories, inside jokes, late-night conversations. That's not connection. That's psychological anchoring. She's trying to tie your present to your past. But you've moved forward internally. That's the part she didn't expect. She thought time apart meant you'd stay the same. She didn't account for your evolution. You rebuilt your routine, your mindset, your priorities. You stopped seeking validation and started creating purpose. Now your energy doesn't chase, it attracts. And that shift changes everything. Because the man who no longer needs closure cannot be controlled by unfinished emotions. You already closed the door within yourself. Her return is just a reminder of how far you've come. You can listen without attachment. You can empathize without re-entering. You can wish her well without reopening your life. That's maturity. Do you see the difference? Before, love meant losing yourself to keep someone. Now love means keeping yourself regardless of who stays. That's why your silence feels heavy to her. Not because it's cruel, but because it reflects her lack of influence. Your calm becomes her consequence. And for the first time, she feels what you felt: uncertainty. You don't celebrate that, you just observe it. Growth doesn't need witnesses, it just needs consistency. There will be moments where doubt appears, late at night when memories feel warmer than reality. That's normal. Healing isn't the absence of feeling, it's the presence of control. You acknowledge the past without returning to it. You respect the lesson without repeating it, because you understand something now. Love without respect becomes dependency, and dependency destroys peace. So when she reaches out again, and she will, you respond differently, not with emotion, with awareness. You don't rush, you don't over-explain, you don't reopen wounds for nostalgia. You simply maintain the boundary that built your peace. And that boundary is self-respect. This isn't about proving you've moved on. It's about living like you have. There's a quiet strength in that. No announcements, no dramatic exits. Just a life that no longer revolves around someone who once disrupted it. Sunrise over city. That's real power, not detachment from people, but attachment to your purpose. She may never fully understand your growth, and that's fine. You didn't evolve to be understood. You evolved to be free. Freedom doesn't look loud, it looks peaceful. And peace is something you protect, not negotiate. So if she comes back, smile. Not because you want her again, but because you recognize the test and you've already passed it. You don't need to block. You don't need to argue. You don't need to explain. You just continue forward. Because the man you became during the silence is worth more than the relationship you lost. And that's the final realization. You didn't lose her. You found yourself. If this message resonated, hit like and subscribe to Learnify, because growth like this deserves to be shared. Stay disciplined, stay peaceful, and never trade your evolution for familiarity again.